Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla stock, let's go over the market, let's talk about what is happening today and what we can expect moving into this week. So with all that being said and done, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoy this video, don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice and I am not a financial advisor. And of course, my membership section on YouTube is live. That link is down below. You can access all my intraday thoughts, post updates on Tesla for just $2.99 and just sometimes, the broader market in general. And I also have an NVIDIA tier, which includes all of that, plus NVIDIA analysis daily for $4.99. The link is down below in the description. Definitely check it out if you're interested. Yeah, let's just get right into it. Tesla closing the day up a beautiful 3.11%, closing at pretty much almost $235 per share, which compared to the market, you can argue is maybe a slight outperformance, but roughly in line, but maybe an ever so slight outperformance. Now let's talk about this. What does this mean going for Tesla moving forward? And is Tesla bullish, bearish? What's going on? Where can we go next, right? So let's talk about it. Let's start on the 15-minute chart, right? The 15-minute chart, you can see we're pretty much stepstoning up, right? It's pretty simple stuff. Had a massive run up, sideways, massive run up, sideways, massive run up, sideways. Then we had a little bit of run up towards the end of the day. And I do believe that 225 is actually in play for this week. I mean, it could be even as early as tomorrow, but I definitely wouldn't be surprised to see 225 or at least damn close to it. I mean, we're only, a couple dollars off really, but nonetheless, closer to 225. Again, could be as early as tomorrow. That would not shock me, but I'd be pretty surprised if we go too much farther than 225 without at least some cool off. Again, the cool off doesn't have to be a pullback to, back to the downside. It could be, doesn't have to be, but at least a cool off. Could be even a sideways cool off, right? That really wouldn't surprise me. Why? Because, well, the 1 hour chart, it's pretty overbought. It really is pretty damn overbought, right? The MACD, hasn't really crossed bearish. It did kind of briefly here, but, it's been pretty much on a rampage for quite some time here. Hasn't really crossed bearish in quite some time. And it's pretty much up there, right? It's getting to pretty overbought levels, right? The RSI, you can see, is kind of starting to set some divergences, right? It's kind of setting lower highs while we're setting higher highs on the 1 hour chart. So seeing some divergences. We had a false breakdown on the stochastic on the 1 hour. It is obviously crossed back to bullish, but once again, entering pretty, even more overbought territory now. So, not the MACD, the BX trender is still kind of unsure, still showing the red band. So a little concern, excuse me, concerning there as well. So the point I'm trying to make here is, despite the move up today of, beautiful 3%, there are still some potential signs on the 1 hour chart that are still saying that, hey, there's still room to the upside. Like I said, 225. I think best case scenario is 230. I'd actually be extremely surprised if we go higher than 230 this week. But that's the best case, but the realistic case 225. But hey, be a little bit careful, right? Kind of remember on the daily chart, remember when we pumped up all the way over here and everyone was euphoric, everyone was bullish, and we technically did go a little bit higher, right? We went a little bit higher and higher, and it seemed like maybe we should top around here, but we obviously didn't. Still went a little bit higher, but the signs were there. The signs were telling us that, hey, it's bullish and we can go a bit higher, but you might want to start being a little bit more cautious around these levels. It's not going to last for too much longer probably. It's kind of the same idea here, just on a shorter, more compressed time frame where we can go higher short term. Again, I want to make this clear, this is short term. On the 1 hour chart, we can go higher, but you might want to be a little bit careful around these levels. We're starting to enter some pretty euphoric levels here, and that's kind of what I'm seeing across the board, right? Honestly, whether it's Tesla, NVIDIA, the market in general, really, the market looks pretty unstoppable, but nonetheless, also just, very euphoric levels over here on the market. So just keep that in mind, right? Keep that in mind. Now, the issue is the fact that I think a lot of people that missed on this rally, they want back in, right? They want back in, they want to pull back. And that's why the market's being very annoying to them, right? It's not giving them the pullback that they want to see, to the point where, at some point it'll make those people FOMO back in. They'll be like, what, I give up. There's no pullback. I'm just going to enter here. I'm too scared to miss this ride back up, potentially to all-time highs or whatever. And the second they enter, the market finally goes down. So that's, the market loves doing that, man. I've seen that time and time again. So we'll see how it plays out. But all in all, again, the way I look at it, right? 225, I think, is a realistic target. I'd be pretty surprised if we go higher than that, and I'd be pretty shocked if we go higher than 230 this week. That's kind of my main two levels I'd be looking at as of right now, at least before some cool off. But looking at the daily chart, let's take a look at the daily chart. This is where things get more interesting, in my opinion, right? The daily chart is looking phenomenal on Tesla, right? We had a beautiful MACD crossover today, right? And that's why I pulled up this post right here, which I'll talk about soon. But, massive bearish cross. Obviously, we pretty much crashed. And today, on this rally, we ended up finally getting that bullish MACD cross on the daily. Obviously, that's a pretty damn good sign. And interestingly enough, TrendSpider, which by the way is a phenomenal account on Twitter, X, whatever, great account. I'm not like sponsored or anything like that to say this, but it's actually a great account. I definitely recommend following it. They actually post some pretty good technical analysis more often than not, in my opinion. So anyway, the reason I bring this up is because they do have this post that they made yesterday. I believe it was, 2 days ago, actually. Long Tesla on a bullish MACD cross, exits on a bearish MACD cross over the last 5 years, crushes buy and hold with over a plus 1,650% return and a 47% win rate. This strat is very close to firing another entry. And you can see, obviously this was before we had the crossover. This was posted on, I think, Saturday. And obviously today we had that crossover. So Tesla tends to respect this crossover, a fair amount, right? But the point is the fact that even if it doesn't respect this, the stop loss is pretty low. On a bearish crossover, you exit, right? On the bullish crossover, assuming Tesla respects it, you get a pretty nice reward, right? And that's just the way it is, right? It is what it is. Now, that's kind of what I'm seeing on the daily chart. The daily chart is looking pretty phenomenal. We're actually on the verge of getting a monthly MACD crossover as well. So that's going to be something to pay attention to as well in the coming months. So definitely keep your eyes on that. But on top of the bullish MACD crossover, Tesla is also setting up, obviously, what we've been talking about for way before I think anyone else even bothered talking about it. We had that massive cup and handle, right? Obviously we had that cup, right? We talked about it way back when we were still all the way up in 265. I'm sure people that follow the channel remember. And we talked about how, after that we set up the handle, and that's exactly what we've been doing, right? We set up this massive handle, which are these green lines right here. We obviously, went pretty down substantially. It was a pretty steep downward channel, right? Potential bull flag, you can even argue, right? But we broke out of it. We talked about the breakout. We did break out of it. Now, we're pretty much executing this cup and handle pattern to a certain degree. I say to a certain degree because, at least in my opinion, the true execution of this pattern would be a break above the neckline, which will be that massive, massive level of $265 per share. A break of that, I think Tesla will get very euphoric. But obviously, there's still decent work to be done in order to get above that kind of level. Now, with that being said, though, there's a nice looking setup for Tesla, right? The beautiful setup that it has right here with the cup and handle, breakout of the handle, potential, you can even just look at it, like I said, a bullish flag breakout like this, beautiful breakout as well, right? MACD crossed over to the bullish side, right? You can see the BX trender now showing a green bar. So there's a lot of good things setting up for Tesla on the daily chart. I think the daily looks phenomenal. I don't see too much bearishness on the daily, like almost at all. It's hard for me to find something that bearish on the daily chart, to be completely honest with you. The only thing that's, again, concerning to me is just a very short time frame, the next few days even. This week, let's just say, on the 1 hour chart, where again, we are getting a little too euphoric short term, a little bit too overbought short term, right? We have, of course, the market bias, we are above it, but the band's regression, we are in overbought territory. So, that's my only kind of, hey, maybe be a little bit careful around here. The short term is getting pretty euphoric. Wouldn't be surprised to see at least some pullback, or at the very least a sideways correction, which is what I am personally expecting. So again, if you're interested on what I'm doing, right, this morning I actually did sell on the initial morning pump at around 219, and then I actually rebought it. I rebought even heavier once we dropped down to 214. I think I bought at 214.2, which was actually, no, not 0.2. I think it was a little bit higher, but I almost sniped the bottom and almost sniped the top, at least the morning versions of it. And then I'm still riding those shares that I have. I sold covered calls for the week, right? I did sell covered calls for the week, mainly because, again, I don't think there's too much higher movement. And if there is, obviously it's, it's out of the money. But there is a chance that all Tesla does for this quote unquote correction is it just does this like this. This is all it does, like, for the week. This is a very real possibility, right? Where we just go sideways. Excuse me, something in my throat. But there is a chance that that's all that happens. Which is why I'm not selling the shares. I'm just selling covered calls, because if this were to happen, covered calls actually print the most here, right? If we do get this kind of sideways correction, right? And that's kind of what I'm doing. And I have a stop loss if we do break below a certain range, which I share with my members. I will be exiting out of that position, personally at least. Anyway. I don't share my trades. I want to make that clear. I actually don't share my trades, but sometimes I give hints as to what I'm thinking regarding my trades, but I don't actually share them. Anyway, whatever, off topic. The point I'm trying to make here is the fact that Tesla looks great on the daily chart. Phenomenal, 1 hour, a little bit euphoric, could be a little bit concerning short term, especially considering we have FOMC minutes on Wednesday, we have Jackson Hole on Friday. Could be some volatility kicking in a little bit as we enter those situations this week. So could things could get a little bit more spicy. So that's kind of the main thing I'm looking at for Tesla, right? And keep in mind, don't forget, on Friday we talked about, I think it was Friday, huge. Oh, but there's another one that just came in at 417. Another dark pool order came in at 222.72. But this is actually perfect, because this is what I wanted to transition to, right? Remember, on Friday we talked about almost like $1 billion in dark pool, right? One of which was a single one of about 750 million. What was it at? I think it was like 215 or 216. We can argue that was a buy. Because we went well above that. So there's a chance that that was an actual buy. And, you know, that's a good sign because, again, those dark pool levels, sometimes what they do is they act almost as supports or resistances, right? So that's the only way to determine if it was a buy or a sell behind the scenes. Sometimes they do act as support or resistance, especially when it's a massive one like, you know, 750 million. So clearly, since we're above it, we can at the moment make the argument that maybe it was a buy. So that's great, especially if Tesla corrects sideways. Again, a correction doesn't have to go downwards. A correction can just be a sideways correction while, for instance, this median line, if you will, of the bands kind of catches up to us, you know, over the next couple of days or so as we go sideways. And then that essentially resets the stock, and that essentially resets this momentum that is getting a little too euphoric, can reset the stochastic, can reset the MACD, can reset the RSI. Keep that in mind. It doesn't have to be a move to the downside to correct. So that's why I personally have sold calls in case it is a sideways correction, which I think is a very real possibility. But that's kind of the main thing I'm looking at. Tesla is one of the most bullish flows today at around 20 million, which is great to see. Of course, a lot of calls came in throughout the day, of course. So that's always a positive to see. But yeah, all in all, in my opinion, Tesla looks pretty damn good on the daily chart. I think the daily chart is the main one you should be looking at personally. That's probably the best chart to look at. Looking phenomenal, looking bullish. Again, I do think short-term 225 should be a pretty massive resistance. Worst case scenario, or not worst case, best case, I guess, 230. But I'd be surprised if we go much higher than that, at least this week, at least before a pullback, or at least a sideways correction. So yeah, that's what I'm seeing, and that's what I'm thinking. So all that being said and done, ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you think down below. Let me know what your positions are. I'm curious if anyone's, you know, sitting in Tesla. Are they waiting? Do they think they'll pull back and they'll buy more? Are they just riding the wave? What are you doing? But yeah, thank you all so much for watching. And I will, of course, be continuing making these videos every single day as long as I can, really. So until then, thanks for watching. Peace.